Jay Washington,
Yes.
who you got in the Schmodown?
Where?
Dan Murrell, Ethan Irwin.
Who the hell you think I got? I got Ethan
It's a
Irwin.
trick question.
Yeah, like who do you think I got?
How did you manage this guy? How did you get this guy
So
in
like,
your corner?
Okay, so like the way Christian comes up with a bunch of storylines, which
Right.
sometimes I realize he has too much on his plate. Because I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And so, like, after the free-for-all, you know, everybody saw what Ethan did. And then Christian was out the blue, was like, I'm going to have you manage Janine and Ethan in the Anarchy tournament.
Right.
I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And then, of course, their schedules couldn't work out and stuff.
Right.
So I was like, all right.
Sometimes that happens.
It happens. And so the match with him, when he was teaming with Sabina, I'll never forget. I was trying to get here, but my Uber was horrible. And I was like, yo, I'm trying. And that's why I ran in the middle of the match. And so afterwards, Christian was like, I'll just keep you with Ethan. I was like, all right, let's see how this works.
Yeah.
Because Ethan wasn't really doing the characters and stuff that we do in the Schmodown.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he plays it.
He plays it, but
he
slowly but surely got into it.
Right.
And so the way I played the character and everything, it was like, all right, let's see how this works. And he started glomming onto it. And so we both just started having fun, and you see where it is right now. So I can't complain.
I'll complain.
Why?
Man.
Why would you
I'm
do
not
that?
complaining. I'm kidding. I'm complaining by the fact that this guy is dangerous.
You know what? When I got involved with this, I was always a fan of trivia in general.
Yeah.
Movie trivia is one thing as well too. But when you see somebody who's just knowledgeable out the gate, you know, you have Roka, you have Merle, you have yourself. Yeah. But you see what Ethan did in the free-for-all to the point where he was just like, I'm ready just to miss a question just to get out of here in a sense.
I know. He's like, I got to go to the bathroom. Can you ask me something that I might not know?
I might not know. And so that was like, yo, okay. So dude is amazing. It's also interesting when you see all the people that we work with on this thing who are dedicated to this, who movies are what we do.
Yeah.
You know, you have some people like LaRocca who love all the biopics. You have them in the Westerns. You have people who love the horror like Clark, myself, you know, and many others who are fans of, have a big affinity for the comic book movies.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing when you see all that come together.
Yeah.
You know.
I love it. I love talking Schmodown. I'm glad to have you on. I want to talk about that. Welcome, one and all. It is episode 32 of the Reilly Roundtable, a show that talks about movies, talks about life, talks about movies and life, and everything in between. And you heard him up top, folks. A good friend of mine, somebody I've been dying to have on the show for so long now, Jay Washington in the house. My friend, how are you?
I'm honored to be here, to be quite honest with you. I saw when you started doing this and everybody you were on, I was like, do I ask him to be on or do I just wait?
Oh, I get you. I had a list of people, and then there were people I would reach out to that couldn't do it. I would move things around, and some days I wouldn't even have a guest, so I'd just go, Roka, get in here, whatever, let's go. But we would have great conversations. But you have somebody that I've been dying to have. I'm glad. We were hanging out the Schmodown Awards. I'm like, come on my show.
And I was
please.
like, let me know the date. And I just plugged it in, like, let's do it. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. And we talked Schmodown a little bit up top. Yeah. But I know that this will air on Thursday. You'll probably be in the air, I hear. You're going to I want to start here because the Schmodown it's going to be a live stream. It's going to be live.
Yeah.
Your boy Ethan Irwin.
It's like an iPay-per-view.
It's an iPay-per-view, and I'm jealous that you guys are going to go and hang out in New York, of all places, even though it's like 50 below, I hear, over there.
It is not that cold. From what I was checking the weather, because I thought I needed to go buy a big winter coat.
Right.
And I was like, hey, Google, what's the weather? It was like, oh, it's 33 degrees. I was like, I just put a hoodie on and a jacket, and I'm good.
That's not even bad. And you're a Chicago boy.
I'm a Chicago boy, so I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I just went and bought a pair of quick little gloves. I already got a skull cap, so I'm good.
It's fine. I mean, yeah, I know. It's like us Californians. It rains and we lose our motherfucking mind.
Don't get started. So I live in the valley in Van Nuys, and it's amazing when it gets 50-something degrees. I can see people in the morning walking to go ready to go to work or whatever, and they have on like goose coats, skull caps, scarves, earmuffs. I'm like, would you stop?
They give me shit because I put on a scarf.
I'm like, it is not that bad. People are like, it's freezing. I'm like, no, the fuck, it's not.
I come from a long line of cold people.
That's amazing.
My mother is cold in like 75-degree weather. I don't know. Sometimes I've inherited, but over the years I've been like, this is why I wear a scarf. I don't get cold then.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fine. It can be just a shirt. And everybody's like, dude, it's California. I'm like, yeah, and raining and cold right now. And that's why the scarf is. Jay Washington, my guess, is looking at me.
I surely
like
am because
stupid.
Because it's just it's surreal. Like I understand to an extent, but then again, I don't. Like I get California, primarily Los Angeles, is built on a desert, so I get that. I get it'll get cold at night.
Sure,
but at times,
not really. We're
not
talking comparative to New York, Chicago,
Boston, things like that. And people I'm like, stop it.
I know. We California, the original birthplace of the of the week in needy.
Between California and Florida, I saw a meme the other day, and it wasn't even a meme. It was a picture of a last year's weather forecast at a Florida weather station, and they said dangerous low temperatures, dress in layers, and only stay out for a minimum amount of time. Temperature will reach in the low 50s. I said I hate every single one of y'all. I hate every single one of y'all. In the low 50s, are you serious?
Yeah, that's come on. We just hit the low 50s the other night. And I was like, oh, it's nice out. It's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like it. Well, enough about the weather talk. Jay, thank you for coming on as always. Happy to have you here. I always start with this. I like to know and get to know people on the roundtable. When did you get out here? And did you come directly from Chicago, or was it like, did you jump around?
No. I'm born and raised in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I'm a Chicago boy through and through. I came out here in 2015 right after – well, not after. I'd filmed Spike Lee joined Chirac.
Okay.
And I'd done so much stuff in stand-up, and I was like, I need to do something more with my career.
Yeah.
And I found out when Chirac was going to drop in theaters the 1st or 2nd of December. So I was like, you know what? I talked to my then-girlfriend and our daughter. I was like, look, I think I can make this move for my career.
Yeah.
I can move out west to L.A. You can go back home to Tacoma while I get everything situated here, and we'll still have everything going. Okay. So I came out then. I got out here. I drove with one of my best friends. We drove across country. I got out here November 30th.
November 30th.
Yeah,
2015.
2015.
Nice.
And then I had shows booked already because I was doing a show in Denver while I was on the way here, shows in Vegas, and then started doing shows here in LA and got situated as soon as I got here.
That's awesome.
So it's been 3 years, man. It's been, going on 4.
Yeah.
Just past my 3-year anniversary.
Right.
But it's been interesting. It's been so interesting. It's been a unique experience.
Yeah.
There's so many ups and downs.
Oh, God, yes.
People will like, oh, well, that's just part of the game. Like, yeah, it is, but you don't know how bad it can get until you're in the thick of it.
Yes. And I want to talk let's talk about that, because the one thing I notice more than anything is how much you hustle.
Yes.
I see it every day on social media. I see it when I talk to you. I mean, we were talking about off air. You're going to New York, and it's like, oh, man, I got to pack, but I'm doing a set tonight.
Yeah.
It's like me, lazy Reilly. If I'm traveling the next day, I'm like, no, I'm going to go home. I'm going to pack. I'm going to go to bed early. But I'm a writer. I like to stay indoors. I fear the outside sometimes. So I get it. But let's talk about those struggles, because I know it can really take it out of you.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of, I want to say, some listeners out there who follow along with the show, great fans, great people, great comments, great support, all that, and they love this business, whether it's writing, producing, acting, directing,
absolutely,
stand-up comedy. I mean, how hard can it be sometimes?
Excuse me. Well, I'll be frank and honest with you.
I'm
going to be just completely honest. I'm going to take, so for everybody who's a Schmoedown fan who knows the Urban Gladiator Jay Washington, I'm going to take that moniker off. I'm going to just be me.
Please.
So when I moved here, I was originally supposed to stay with my cousin for a couple of months until I got a place.
Yeah.
I was literally driving through Vegas on my way to California, called her, said, I'm going to be here. I'm like, I need your key and all this. She was like, I didn't say you could stay here.
Oh, shit.
So when I got here, I had no place to go. Luckily, a friend from Chicago was like, you can crash on my couch for like a week or two, whatever.
Right.
Then he was like, hey, I'm going to need my place back, so you got to find something. I was like, all right, well, let me scramble. So I found a spot in North Hollywood. That didn't work out because the roommate was crazy.
Oh, God. Had those, yeah.
In the midst of that, just the whole bad situation, I moved to another spot in Van Nuys, and I literally was one of 4 people sharing a 1-bedroom apartment.
Oh, God.
And it was so bad. I dealt with the couch that I slept on had fleas.
Oh, man.
I went home to Chicago for 2.5 months to film a movie. When I came back, half of my stuff had been stolen.
Oh, shit.
out the apartment. So then I left. I was like, I can't take this if my stuff is gone. So then a former associate said, you can crash here. We're trying to move. So I'd made a pallet on their front floor in their living room. Stayed there, and I was trying to find a place, and hopefully things were going to come by. And also, I was hoping that the residuals from the digital of Chirac would be enough to carry me over.
Right.
The digital money was not what nobody thought it was, and everybody got checks for like $50.
Oh, no.
So then then all of a sudden I got we need our living room back. I'm like, first of all, there's no space in here for what you need back. You already got stuff packed.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I had to pack up the car I had and I was homeless. I lived out my car.
Oh, man.
I parked across the street from the YMCA in North Hollywood at the park, and I stayed out in my car for a couple of weeks. One of my buddies was like, hey, you can crash here, but then his wife was like, no. So I was just staying out in my car. Then a buddy of mine, he started putting me up in hotels, and I stayed in hotels for a minute.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, I hadn't heard from him, so I didn't have nowhere to go.
Oh, man.
So I ended up, I was basically homeless. I've been homeless out here for almost a year, close to a year and a half, and nobody knew. I even tell people, when I was out here doing the Schmodown, when I was doing comedy everywhere, when I was filming all this stuff, I was doing it living out of my car, basically.
Yeah.
And nobody knew.
No.
My depression had hit through the roof because then officially my daughter's mother and I had broke up.
Right.
And that was the last bastion of hope I had to keep me sane. That it caused me to spiral into a severe case of depression. So I was doing all that. Then fast forward, I met a girl. We're super cool. We're just good friends. She's like, I got a couch. You can stay on an extra room. So luckily, I ended up staying there. And the buddy who was paying for the hotel got back in touch with me.
Okay.
I was like, well, listen, instead of paying for the room, maybe you can help me throw a couple dollars her way till I get myself situated. Luckily, it worked out. And now I have a place I've been at for about a year.
Great.
But it's been so much between not knowing how you're going to pay rent the next day. I've put everybody who sees me, you do as well, I bust my ass when I come out to any of these networks, anything I do, because I'm trying to kick down a door.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like it doesn't happen. And even when you're trying, I've been doing entertainment as a full-time job since 2011. I haven't had a regular job. So when I try to put a resume in, everybody's like, well, what's about this? And I'm like, listen, this is exactly what I've been doing. And it doesn't. To some companies, it doesn't bode well.
Right. Sometimes.
So, sometimes it does, depending on the company. If it's like a regular place, if it's an entertainment thing like this, like what we do with Collider and the other networks, they understand it.
Yes.
Because they know what you've been doing.
Right.
You can't explain that to other companies that don't get it.
Oh, man. I had a similar thing. 2008, when that recession hit.
Yes.
I had just gotten married, and the thing just fell out from under us. Lost everything I had in savings. Couldn't find work. And there was a period between 2008 and 2012 that I didn't work a full-time job or anything. I pulled from savings. I made a movie, which is great. You know, people know about Gray Skies, wonderful stuff. Went through a divorce. That took the last of it. And then I couldn't find work to save my life. I put resumes in everywhere trying to get something. Finally, Schmoes Know came around, started to do their thing. I started working on their website. That was no money. I kept going. I was personal training on the side, barely scraping by, because they were looking at this resume with the big gap sometimes. And I remember interviewing at this one place. I don't even remember what it was, but thank God I didn't get the job because this guy was a douchebag sitting on the other end. And he's like, what's this? And I'm like, what's what? And he's like, well, there's no work there. I'm like, well, I made a movie. It was an entertainment company too. I'm like, I made a movie and made some shorts. And he's like, so they paid you? I'm like, well, I was one of the producers. So it was a lot of my money. It was a lot of this money. It was a lot of getting by. And he was just like, uh-huh. And I'm like, I'll never forget that.
Oh, that's a horrible. That face, like, I'd have slapped shit I'd do. I'd have slapped shit.
I'm on the other end going, I'm not getting this job. That's okay.
So I've gone through, to this day still. Again, if I'm going to be completely transparent, I still struggle to this day. Every day I'm like, well, let me see what I can do. So that's why I started hustling the drawings I had and started the paintings and stuff, because I was like, if somebody wants to buy them, they'll buy them. I have to do whatever I can because I'm still looking while I'm pursuing a career. I'm like, okay, let me keep putting my resume in. And I still do it. And everybody's like, yo, you out here killing it, especially people back home in Chicago. They're up and down. They're like, yo, you killing it. You and all this. I see you there. I see you there. And I'm like, yeah, it is a blessing. I am grateful to God for all of it. However, you don't know the struggles behind. I tell everybody this. Professionally, my life is great. Personally, at times, my life is in shambles.
Oh man, I hate hearing that.
Well,
but I know that you can kick that shit, and like right now,
Yeah, that's what I said. Like people, unless I tell you, you don't know.
right?
Like some people know, okay, he's going through a down times, but everybody out here has those moments.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, look, depression I've dealt with. I mean, after my divorce, that was it. I was fucking low. I remember getting up out of bed. I've said it before. Get out of bed. I had to. What's the what's the freaking word? Sublet.
Okay, you were sublet. Okay, I was like, what is? I didn't even know what you were trying to
All
say.
right, we're gonna start over here. I'm gonna get my words back. Sublet an apartment from a friend of mine because she was gonna live in Texas for like a year, and I'm like, okay, I need a place to stay, and there was I'll never forget this bottle of whiskey next to the cereal, and I would get up and open it. It's 11 o'clock in the day, and I would pull from that whiskey because I just couldn't get this out.
Yeah.
I didn't know how. I was fucking miserable. I was like the person I thought I was going to be with the rest of my life. Nope, not happening. So that really fucked me up for a while.
Yes, it will.
And that's my thing. Thankfully, I made it to the other side. What do you do when you're feeling that down, depression?
It's kind of hard, to be quite honest. I tell a few people, but I don't like telling them because I'm one of those people who I'd rather you come to me with your issues than me bother you with mine.
Yeah.
And so you'll see me literally just, for those who follow me on social media, I'll start painting and drawing heavily. Yeah. And they're like, wait, why are you just doing it now? Because that's my outlet for the moment.
And I love that.
I'll go back. I'm spending 3-4 hours in the gym when I should. I can't even, I have shows, stand-up shows, and I have to try to push past that to be the funny comedian Jay Washington. And so it's so many different outlets. And I talk to my kids. I'm a father of 2.
Yeah.
And my daughter will always just make me smile no matter what.
That's great.
My 5-year-old does it. My 15-year-old, which is crazy because my son's a genius. My son is taking currently college courses to have his associates by the time he graduates out of high school.
Oh my God.
But he understands
Good for him.
Yeah, I'm so proud of him. I'm beyond proud of him. And he's trying to play in the league, which he potentially can do. He's one of the 3 freshmen on his varsity football team.
Oh my God.
So I'm super proud of him. But he knows sometimes his dad is struggling.
Yeah.
And I don't tell him every single thing. He's like, Dad, I know. And he'll just be like, listen, I understand everything you're going through. My son will tell me some encouraging words that'll perk me up. But at the same time, as a father, I feel bad because I don't want him to know that.
Yeah.
So I try to just keep myself moving and keep going and just keep pushing myself. And I've hit burnout a couple times because it's like there's only so much you can do. But I have to keep my faith in God that there is a better day ahead, even throughout the gray days I've seen, even throughout all the clouds and the storms, because I cannot afford to fail. I have 2 people who are depending on me.
Yeah.
So that is what pushes me through, even when days I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to get from under a blanket.
Yeah.
I want to just stay there balled up and just let everything go by. I have to push through that.
Yeah.
And so they are my focus, and that's what I lean on.
I love that, man. I love hearing that because I know it can be hard. Now, is it you don't want to bother them with your issues? And I'm talking them, meaning the royal, whoever it may be.
The friends and friends and family.
Colleagues, friends.
Absolutely.
Family.
Because everybody, those people you're close to who tell you you have this open invitation with them, and you do. You know it's not just loose words. It's not just saying it to be saying it. And so when that happens, I have friends I'm like, I just can't. Also, people don't know. I've been suicidal 4 times out here, and not just even saying it. I almost jumped in the middle of Cahuenga Boulevard. I almost jumped out of a 7-story hotel window. You know, I've almost taken all of my anti-anxiety pills just to sleep and just take it out.
Yeah.
And so it's hard because I've been through all that, but I somehow have to dig deep and find this reserve in me.
You know what? I appreciate you sharing all this.
Oh, it's no problem.
Thank you for sharing this and being so personable. And Roka's done the same. Roka has mentioned his own issues with that very thing. And I'll tell you what I told him. You do that, I'm going to jump in on the other side and smack you. But I know. Actually, I don't know. I don't know how deep that goes because I've never been there. I can only talk from the experience I've had where, I've been so low, haven't considered it, but thought about it, if that makes sense, where you're like,
absolutely.
oh, yeah, I could feel this way. I mean, I couldn't get out of bed. I was, the divorce thing I was telling you about. And then, losing jobs, I mean, thankfully, the things that have happened at Collider before that, some schmoes stuff that led to a job over at Geek Nation, really pulled me out of it because I was going from job to job to job to job and barely making rent and not making rent. And what do I do now? Thankfully, I had a good mother who said, here.
Which that's also the issue I deal with because it's just me.
Yeah.
My father passed when I was 5. My mother passed when I was 25.
Oh, man.
My family back home, they all believe that, you know, even if I tell them I'm not doing well, I got my own stuff to deal with. So it's just me.
Yeah,
and so I've even had times where I've called a friend and was like, look, I'm on the edge.
Yeah.
I'm not even the edge, I'm on the ledge. And they were like, well, think about your kids. And I literally had the point, I was so down. I was like, my kids would be better without me because as a father, I'm failing them. You know, and they were like, well, that's not the case. I'm like, I am failing my children. And that was the hardest thing for me. And that broke me down even more than what I was already feeling. And so I've been there. You know, people will say, well, you don't understand sometimes. I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I can't. Not to your particular thing, and everything is different. But I mean, my thing is not telling people maybe how I feel. I feel it's ego driven. I don't want to admit it to myself maybe, but there's a bigger part where it's like I don't want them to know.
Yeah,
I want them to see this, and I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm professional. Nothing bothers me. Nothing rattles me. And then you go home, and it's a different story.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that door closes. You're at home. The only person that really knows is my fiance. I mean, she knows everything.
Of course, yeah.
And believe me, she's like, stop it. You know,
you're like, I think I told her enough. And
I've told her enough.
And that was the thing too. That is also because my son is by my ex-wife, so I've been through the divorce.
Yeah,
I got divorced at 27. And that hurt.
Yeah.
And so my daughter's by my ex-girlfriend, who's my ex-fiance. And so I've been like, everybody's like, oh, why don't you try to date and all this? And I've tried to.
Yeah.
I've been being lonely as well, as far as that has actually hurt with the depression, you know, with everything else. And so, because you always want to have somebody to console you, just to tell you it's going to be okay.
Right.
They don't have to make it better. Just to hear the words.
Yeah.
And so that's been a thing I've been dealing with as well. So which is why I'm always I'll keep running until I get tired, then I'll go to sleep, then I'm back up, then I'm running until I'm tired, then I'm back, you know, process going. So.
And how is dating in LA?
I have not. I've never dated. Anything I've done, it's been a one date and then something happens. I've never had the pleasure or the luxury of being with somebody more than one date.
Right.
Whether, like, I don't know if it's myself, but it's just like I'm me. I'm nice. I'm personable. I want to have a conversation. I'm listening. You know, I'm engaging, and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, that was me for a while.
And so I just leave, and I just like, it is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, I don't know about, I wouldn't know anymore. I've been with my fiance for a long time. I knew what it was before my first marriage.
Yeah.
I knew what it was after, which was completely different.
Oh, absolutely.
And then it was the frickin' the apps. And you're like, look at this. All right, let's see what happens.
I can't tell you the amount of times I've downloaded, deleted, and then re-downloaded and deleted the maps off my phone.
I did that before I met. I'm like, I don't need this shit. Did the eHarmony thing. I'm like, how many questions?
First of all, I'm not filling out a questionnaire to pay you to hopefully get somebody. I'm like, yeah, I'll put out the bat signal maybe.
Oh man, I had one. I did the eHarmony thing, and I'll never forget this. I was going through the divorce. I wasn't done, but we had problems or whatever. I was like, I'm going to get out there. Let's do this. Filled out the questionnaire. I'm talking to this girl. She does a little research on the internet for me. And she went, yeah, I saw that you're married, so I'm going to go ahead and call this over. I'm like, I'm not married. I'm divorced. I'm getting a divorce right now. She's like, I saw a picture of you and your wife, and you have a ring on. And I'm like, there are pictures out there of this, yes.
Oh.
I assure you, I am not married right now. And that was the end of that. I didn't hear from her. I didn't get the retort or anything like that. But I'm like, I wonder how much that happens, though, of
now it's
guys, pretending they're married, and then they create a profile.
I know most of my good close friends that I've grown up with are women. And they've told me about how men will be married and they'll make a whole profile just to try to cover their tracks. But because it's the internet,
you can't cover your tracks.
You cannot.
That's ridiculous, man. How do you have the time to do that? That's what I would wonder.
The same amount of time people have to catfish people.
God, it's a world out there,
Yes,
my
it
friend.
is.
World out there. All right, so you come here at 2015. What was your first? Do you remember your first gig? Your first stand-up gig? Because you, like I said, you're
in general
hustling.
or
Yeah.
out here?
Out here. I'd like to know what your first one.
So when I came out here, I actually came out earlier in 2015 in January. I was here for a month.
Okay.
And so I wanted to see it because I was only supposed to be out here for like 2 weeks, but I didn't book a return trip yet. So I stayed a week and a half. I told my girlfriend at the time, Beyonce, I was like, hey, do you mind? I'm just trying to see what this is like. She was like, go ahead. I know what you're doing.
Nice.
And so I did so many different shows. But when I first got out here, the first show I had set up the day I got out here was at the Ice House in Pasadena.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never
Great
forget performing.
place.
Yeah, I'll never forget performing because right after I got off stage, Arsenio Hall went up.
Wow.
So I remember that day. It was the first official LA resident show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but I performed at the Ice House several times before, so it was easy to have that opening and go back there. And it's always been, you know, kind of it shocks me when I'm on stage and people I've watched on TV and film and idolized are sharing the stage with me.
Yeah.
Or I'm sharing the stage with them.
Right.
So yeah, that's always been an interesting thing for me.
Yeah, I could not imagine doing that. What you guys do. I made a joke because Ellis wrote for Playboy. He did this great article the other day.
I just read it.
I know, and I caught me off guard, and I said, "Oh, look at Mr. Fancy Pants here doing the writing thing. Guess what? I'm going on the Comedy Improv store. I'm gonna do some stand up, man. I'm gonna do some stand up," and then shared it and said, "No, this is a fantastic article. Don't worry, I'm not doing stand up because I would lose the way you guys can just quick on your feet." You know, I know you work on materials. Sometimes you don't, maybe, but the improv skills, whatever, getting up there, just standing in front of people and doing this would terrify me.
One of the biggest fears of human beings is public speaking.
Yeah.
I think the first is drowning. The second is public speaking. That is
man.
From the 1 to 2. And so with me, I've always had a quick wit and been humorous. I've always been it.
Right.
I was always, as you would say, the natural comedian. I, for a while, never thought that I would be a professional stand-up comedian because I just I like cracking jokes, having fun. I was a pro wrestler for 9.5 years before I got into stand-up.
Wow.
But I would do wrestling promos and I would always make people laugh, even when I was supposed to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because if I'm tearing you down, but I'm cracking jokes.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, I was on Facebook when it was still relatively new, and there was a girl who had an entertainment company. She had moved from New Orleans to Chicago. She was like, I read your statuses. You're hilarious. Have you ever thought about doing stand-up? I was like, kind of, sort of, no, but because I wouldn't know where to get started. We met up. I did my first open mic at the Checkerboard Lounge in legendary Hyde Park. The place is legendary as well. 5 minutes. I had to write 5 minutes first of all. I was like, this is easy.
Okay.
I was like, this is easy. But I was on stage, and it was so memorable to me because Little Rail was there, B. Cole, Sean Morgan, Michi Hall, a bunch of people who had done Def Jam, Comic View, all these shows that I watched, I idolized as a kid.
Yeah.
I grew up on these comics. And for them to give me love, like, yo, you funny. And I was like, man, I got this. And then I did the next week and I bombed. Now, I bombed so bad.
Well, you have to, right?
You have to have that.
You're going to have that moment where you're going to go, okay, work on this maybe, move this around, carry the one. You know, it's like.
I was like, I don't know what happened. I was sitting there looking around for somebody who was like, so somebody want to tell me what just happened? Because I thought it wasn't real. Because it was like, I know how to. I wrote a new 5 minutes. I'm like, I should be fun. This should just work. I'm like, what?
What?
Hey, man, anybody gonna tell me what happened?
So what? Yeah, what was it? Was it a small crowd? Different?
It was just
a different energy.
Just a different energy that night.
Okay.
You know, the first 5 minutes I had worked. I wrote something else, and I was like, oh, if that killed him, this gonna murder him.
Right.
And it didn't. I was cocky. And nature was like, oh, you want to be cocky already? Oh, don't worry, we got you.
Oh, 1 5 minute set in here.
Oh, you think you the man? Okay. Take these. And I bombed relatively for almost close to a year straight trying to figure out. I would get little laughs here and there, but nothing that was solid and substantial.
Interesting. Okay.
It made me work. It forced me to work harder.
I love that. So was it immediate that when you went and did that first 5 minutes and did very well and then bombed the next 5, were you like, fuck this, I'm out? Or
No.
you're like, nope, I'm going to work even harder?
No, I worked harder.
Yeah.
I didn't walk away.
It was a stupid question. I can tell by the way you carry yourself.
Because it was like, no, I bombed. I was like, I need to figure out what happened. And so I would do these different open mics, and I'll never forget, I went to Riddle's Comedy Club in Alsip, Illinois. They had open mic, and the owner at the time, Ken Stevens, he's still the owner, but he would sit in the back of the club, watch all the comics go up, and if you wanted, he would critique you. So I did my set. I got laughs from the comics, which as a comic back then, you're like, oh, if I make my peers laugh, I'm good. I go to Ken. He tells me this, and I'll never forget. He says, you can be a great mainstream comic one day. He said, it's just one problem. I said, what? He said, you say the word motherfucker entirely too much. I was like, huh?
Really?
He was like, what are you trying to do? Bring back Comic View and Def Jam together? It's unnecessary. He said, here's a challenge. I want you to come back next week, do your same set. Try not to use that word so much.
Okay.
And see the difference. And I did. And it worked stronger.
Okay.
Without me relying on the word motherfucker.
Oh, man.
And
that's
so
funny.
then, a couple weeks, he booked me for my first weekend to MC.
Okay.
And I'll never forget Rick, who was running the booth in the back. He was about to bring me up. At the time, my stage name was my wrestling name. So I was Trauma as a comedian. And
Trauma?
Yeah.
That was your name?
My wrestling, the Urban Gladiator Trauma.
Wow, okay.
And so, again, Alsip, Illinois is on the southwest side of Chicago in a predominantly white neighborhood, upper middle class.
Okay.
All white crowd. I'm about to go up. Rick was like, hey, what is your actual name? Because I'm not about to bring...
I know, Trauma.
He was like, nope.
We're all the white people like, huh?
Yeah, he didn't. He never got a chance to do it. I was like, Jay Washington. He was like, perfect.
Yeah.
Don't worry. And so he brought me, because I'll never forget that moment. And then like a couple of weeks later, I got a chance to open for Tommy Davidson at the Improv.
Oh, he's great.
Him and I became friends after that. And so it was just things started rolling. And then my buddy Ryan Buds, I'll never forget, he did this thing called 30 Sets in 30 Days. And I was like, this is unique. And then so I did it. But when I got to 30, I was like, yo, let me just push myself. Let me see if I can get to 50.
Nice.
I got to 50, I was like, well, let me keep going. I did 75.
Is this daily, every day?
Every day, nonstop. And then, again, daily in a row. And when I got to 75, I was like, well, let me see if I can go to 100. And so when I got to 100, what I did was I threw a roast for myself because all comics knew I was doing it. Had fun at the roast, but I didn't stop.
Oh, wow.
I ended up doing 131 sets in 113 days.
Holy shit,
now,
dude.
it pales in comparison to my homie Samuel Bede, who did like 1,000 sets in 1,000 days. But I got kids. You know, I had a kid.
You have to take a break.
I had one kid at the time. So,
yeah.
But it was, it pushed me and it forced me. What it did, it made me hate old material, made me forced to write new material and grow that material.
Yeah.
And it made me be better and just look at myself every time I went up. Sometimes I would just say stuff and just would say it. There was no energy. There was nothing behind it.
Okay.
And so it forced me to be better. And know if I'm going to hit the stage every single time, I need to have this energy no matter how I feel.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I saw it finally. I was able to see it because, I've been watching the Schmodown and laughing my ass off with you, enjoying your work here, enjoying when you come on any show here. And then finally I go to Mark Ellis's stand-up show at Silver Lake a couple months ago. And it was the first time my fiance came with me to see you on stand-up too. And halfway through your set, she leans over and goes, "He's fucking good." And I went, I was laughing my ass off, dude. And I'm not brown nosing my guests right now, man. I was impressed because you came out there. Granted, you had a good lead-in with Roca, who you came in and fucking put him right in his place, which I loved. And God, we talked about this. I thought he was great. He was fearless
because I knew what he was doing, and he's new at it.
And he's
so
absolutely.
He's new at it. So I'll give. Roca's new at it, but everybody knows I have a love for Roca, so I'll give him shit about it.
He's my boy.
But for him to go up there just to still want to do it is commendable in itself.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You're not seeing me get up there and do that because I'm like, no, that's not my thing. I want to do other things. He's like, that's a challenge. I want to do it. And that's what I love about that guy, is that he's going to do it and that he's going to take it when you come in after him and go, Roca. But your set was fantastic. And I thought it was like the energy was great. I thought a lot of people enjoyed the fact that it was like kind of a Schmodown thing happening. There was just fans happening. And it was great.
And it was the one thing about it, too, whereas Mark and I being stand-ups, we know like the fans will come see us because of who we are on the internet.
Sure.
But you have to remind the fans, that person is not here right now.
Right. Yeah.
That person is different. This is a whole different ball game.
Right.
And so when people see the stand-up, they're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm always like, I think I'm pretty good. My schedule says I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when Perry, because I love Perry to death. Perry was like, I never knew. Perry was in such shock, and it warms my heart every time I talk to her about it.
Yeah,
because Perry's just the sweetest person, and it's just like I never knew. Oh my God.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, no, I realized that. I mean, the first time I really started to understand or get not involved like in the stand-up world where I'm up there, but being supportive of some of my friends, getting to know Ellis and then seeing him on stage I was like, whoa, I know exactly what you're referencing. It's a different persona.
Yes.
He might have a little bit more bite to it. He might have a little, obviously different jokes, different routines.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, okay. And that's what I admire so much because it is an act. It is a routine. It is something that you perform.
Yes.
And not just like sit around and just tell jokes just to tell jokes.
I know some people who think because they are funny with their friends,
oh yeah,
they can go on stage and like, no, because everybody in this crowd isn't your friend.
Right.
They don't understand everything you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to talk about topical stuff that's in the news. It's so simple to do that.
Sure.
Also, but it is a little difficult to make it funny.
Right.
And also to make people who don't know you laugh.
Yeah, that must be the toughest part. I mean, it's like you can't go out there and go, hey, how about airplane food, huh? This guy knows. It's like I've seen those guys.
Yeah, so many people ask me all the time, do you still get nervous? I tell them every single time.
Is it every time? Yeah.
Because every crowd is different. Yeah, granted, like, again, we were talking about before we started recording, when we did in San Diego last year, Mark put on a show down at the American Comedy Company.
Right.
And, of course, it was sold out. Ellis fans, Schmodown fans, Schmoes No fans and whatnot. And I still got nervous because even though they may know me as this person, this personality, and some may have heard I'm funny, I still have to be funny at this moment.
Right.
What I've done in the past doesn't matter until this moment right here.
Yeah. God. I'll say it and I'll say always, just admire the hell out of you guys for doing what you do. And then how did that's the big question I have. How did you transfer from the stand-up world, professional wrestling? How did you come across my radar when I'm like, who's that guy in the Schmodown?
Okay, so
how'd you get in here?
I'll tell you the whole story.
I love it.
And it's going to involve somebody, he who shall not be named.
Uh-oh.
So this is how it started. I was at an open mic at the Oaks Tavern in Sherman Oaks.
Okay.
They do an open mic there. I was doing it on Mondays at the time. And there was this big group on the side. They were evidently celebrating somebody's birthday. They buying drinks all night. They having fun. They waiting on the karaoke to happen. And so every other comic that was going up was talking shit about them because they wouldn't be quiet.
Oh.
But me being a comic, knowing and having been in this game, knows a bar that is making money off patrons doesn't care about the stand-up comics doing an open mic.
Right.
They are more important.
Yes.
So
yes.
One of the comics who I'm cool with, he told me who they were, and I was like, the name sounds familiar, I don't know. He was like, just check it. And it was Screen Junkies. It was all the Junkies crew from back in the day.
Okay.
They were celebrating he who shall not be named's birthday.
Now I know he who not. Yeah, okay.
So they
I'm
were
with
celebrating
you.
his birthday.
Okay.
So when I got
turning
up,
666 that day.
yes, he was.
Yeah.
So when I got on stage, I literally said, everybody been talking shit at y'all all day. I'm going to talk shit with y'all. I literally said, and I quote, I was doing some research before I went on stage, and I was looking up, you need more black people on your team. I literally said that.
Nice.
He said, you're right. I want to hire you.
Oh.
So again, because I had him laughing the whole time. I just kept him laughing. Afterwards, we exchanged Twitter info.
Okay.
He DM'd me, said, hey, do you think you can do movie fights? I said, I know I can. So I did my first movie fights. Is when I met Sasha Pearl Raver, and Joe was already there at the birthday party. I lost, but the fans loved me.
Yeah.
And they kept bringing me back. And then I met Ken, because he was working at the time.
Yep.
Ken was like, hey, do you think you could, because since you can do this, you should check out the Schmodown.
Oh, and this is in your wheelhouse right there. I mean, we're coming off of the Urban Gladiator,
Yes.
stand-up now. You know your movies, which I want to get into.
So he shows me this, and I'm like, cool. So he has me come down, watch a taping. I talked to Christian. Christian says, you think you can do it? I'm like, I know I can. So that's when he was like, I'll never forget when I had to cut my first promo. He was like, I was like, what do you need me to talk about? I was like, cool. And I said it and was done. And Christian was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Because he couldn't believe.
Because he's the wrestling.
Yeah, he was
the
like,
wrestling world is in his blood.
Yeah, so he didn't know. He was like, how do you know how to do that? I was like, oh, you don't know my backstory.
Yeah.
He was like, what? I was like, I was a pro wrestler for 16 years. He's like, huh?
Yeah.
And so.
And in his mind, this is like, Cling. Yes, because he needs that.
He
wants that.
And so I remember because the first time I faced Draco, and then we had fun, and I started meeting people, and then I kept doing. I kept being involved.
Yeah.
He was like, "Would you mind doing this? Would you like to do that? Hey, if I'm having fun with it, I don't care. Let's go."
Yeah.
And so the rest is history. Is where I am now.
There it is, man. And you become, in your own right, a legend in this game. I want to say because I love. It's your character that I love, and you're no fucking slouch in trivia either. And I know that you've hit some buzzsaws in the game.
Of course.
But,
I mean,
I
grew up. So I tell everybody when I say I grew up on the South Side of Chicago, I bring that up because when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, it was super violent in my neighborhood.
I can't imagine because I've heard the stories. I've never been to Chicago.
Yeah.
I have my dear friend Erica who lives out there with her husband and kids outside the city, but she works in the city. That's it. That's all I know.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So growing up, we played outside sparingly.
Sparingly because of the shit?
The shit. Like it would be times like in the summer you would love it when the kids can come out, we can play, and then all of a sudden you just hear bop, 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 bop.
Oh, God.
Everybody's in the house. Like everybody talks about Chicago now, how dangerous it is. It's like, oh my God, it's such a murder capital. We're like, no, it's not. If you survived Chicago in the 90s, you can survive Chicago now.
It was worse.
It was worse. We had over 1,000-something murders for like 5-6 years in a row. And those were only the murders they finally tallied up.
Yeah.
Again, now because of the internet, it makes it seem like things that happen more sporadically.
Yeah.
But I digress. So I was always in the house. I was always watching movies. Anything that came on WGN, anything came on tapes, my mother would rent movies. And I'm constantly watching them. My uncle started renting movies. I'm watching them with him. All different types. I remember my mother wanted to be the mother for the neighborhood. Well, basically, a bunch of us grew up together as the kids because our parents grew up together.
Yeah.
So the parents would do things to the kids to keep us out of trouble. My mother would round us all up and take us to the theaters together. So she took us to see things like Malcolm X when my school didn't take us, Jurassic Park, Batman Returns. I remember these movies specifically she took me to.
Wow.
And she took us to other ones. And so I would always watch movies and I just love it. And it was a time when I really wasn't doing anything because in my high school years, I was kind of an ugly duckling. So I always felt like, okay, well, I'll just sit home, watch movies, and draw.
Yeah.
And so I always watched movies, and I always, even when the old school comic book movies were happening, even though the old school comic TV shows, the cartoons, I was always into them.
Yeah.
And so things just kept flowing until I got older, and I just kept watching and still watch.
Yeah, man. I identify that's exactly what my parents would do. My mom especially was always the one that's like, we're going to go see this, we're going to go see that. She took me to see my very first R-rated movie. I'm going to give you some hints to see if you can guess it. Because it's probably in your wheelhouse, one of my favorite action comedies of the 80s. And she said, okay, there's some nudity, there's some violence. I'm going to tell you to close your eyes in it, okay? At one point, there's some guns, and you just see a couple pops and some flashes, and that's it. And then when he's gone, the main character is going to go and move, or not move, but go over to this new town, and that's where all the fun begins.
What movie is this? I can't remember.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, my God. I was like, because when you said it, I was like, it's either Beverly Hills Cop or 48 Hours. I was thinking it was
right.
I was thinking it was 48 Hours. I was like, is it?
Yeah, and I couldn't believe that she took me to this movie, but she was just like, it's funny.
Would you like to know the first R-rated movie I snuck watching?
Yes.
My mother was watching it. It was my mother, my uncle, and I think one of my older cousins were over, and they was all just watching the movie. And I was supposed to not be in the room when they were watching it, but I snuck in, and I opened the door a little and started watching it. Here we go. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
The original I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh, Lord. Did they catch you? How old were you?
I was like, I was like 8 or 9.
Oh, shit. That is not everybody. Not a movie for kids.
Yeah, because there's a newer one that
I've
came
only
out.
seen that once. Yeah,
there's a
new
newer
one I
one
never saw.
But it's not. It's rough just for the sake of being rough.
Yeah.
But the first one, the original one, is like shit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I watched that. I watched Night of the Demons. Then I started watching all the horror movies. I remember the first time I ever watched Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living, yeah.
Because not Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, because it scared the ever living shit out of me to the point where I was like, when does the sequel come out?
Yeah. Oh, I would start getting into. I mean, I snuck into Pet Sematary.
That terrified me.
It's a terrifying movie. The new one looks even. I don't even know. It looks even worse.
Even worse.
Which I'm like, give it to me. But I was in a horror phase. Like my grandmother in Orange County, she would take a nap, and she just trusted us. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to take a nap. You guys eat your lunch and watch your TV. And I looked at my sister and I go, there's that VHS store right down the street. Let's go. And we would walk down. I don't know how I did it, but I got the original Friday 13th out of there. Came home, put it on, looking for my grandmother, waiting to see if she's going to come down. We finish it. We walk it back. And I don't know how I did this because it must have been a teenager who was letting us do it. But it was that kind of stuff that I would do because I fell in love with horror movies.
I remember going to the old school video stores where like the hard R's and all the really stuff you're not supposed to watch was behind the beaded curtain.
Oh, yeah.
I would go with my uncle. We would grab movies. He was like, look, stay out here. I'm like, you sure? I'm like, I'm scared. And so that'll be my reason to sneak back there.
Yeah. Oh, my dad would do this. I mean, I would constantly just grab Jaws, or I would look at the covers, and he was like, I've told this story millions of times probably on here, but he's like, your mother's away. We're going to watch Aliens. I'm like, what's Aliens? He's like, you'll see. And I'm like, yeah, all right.
That's
and
hilarious.
That scared the shit out of me. But I love it. Yeah, so movies is a big part of your life as well. I always love asking this. It might take you a bit, but favorite movie all time?
Coming to America, Trading Places, Total Recall, the original, and Howard the Duck because of duck titties.
Howard, I can't do Howard the Duck titties. Oh my God!
Yo, let's be honest. Nobody ever expected to see duck titties because it was just.
I'm trying to remember what part that was.
When they first hit the thing and it grabbed Howard from his chair in Duck World and it sucked him through and he was going through all the different apartments.
Oh, that's right.
And the female duck, she was in the tub.
Yes.
And it was just like it was out of nowhere.
Oh my God. That's George Lucas, kids.
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, Coming to America, Trading Places. I mean, yeah, Eddie Murphy fan growing up. So
I remember watching Delirious when I wasn't supposed to.
Oh yeah, I listened to Eddie Murphy Comedian, his first tape.
That's Delirious.
It was before Delirious.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it was Eddie Murphy Comedian, then Eddie Murphy Delirious, then Raw. If I remember,
yeah, those are
orders.
Yeah, those are orders.
Yeah, I would put that on when I was in camp, and I would just put my headphones on, and I mean, I could verbatim his stand-up routine.
Oh, when pay-per-view, when cable came out and then pay-per-views, but it was scrambled where you couldn't really see it.
Oh yeah,
we had the channel where I would always, even though I couldn't see it, you could hear it clearly.
Oh, and that's all you needed.
Martin Lawrence's Run Tell That. I learned that back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Like it was toothpaste. Use your vowel. I loved it. But also that played into my affinity for stand-up comedy. I just love comedy.
Yeah.
I just loved it.
And then you see Eddie Murphy go on and become the biggest movie star in the world. Coming to America is one of my favorite comedies.
And the fact that they're doing the sequel.
How do you feel about that, by the way?
Okay, so
can you? I mean, it's like, have we learned anything? I'm just being devil's advocate real quick because I'm going to see the motherfucking thing.
Yeah.
I can't wait because I love that movie so much. But we've seen a revisit in sequel form. Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Anchorman.
Yeah.
What else? When they revisit Caddyshack 2.
I don't even act like that counts.
That doesn't count. That is such an abomination
I think
of a sequel.
It's hard. It just depends on how you try to do it.
Yeah.
Because
another 48 hours is pretty good though.
Yeah, but you can't try to catch lightning in a bottle. Dumb and Dumber was lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
Anchorman was lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
As long as you don't try to reinvent the wheel with the movie, you're good. Let it play where it's Prince Akeem's son. And he can play the role of King Joffrey Joffer now. Now, he can be what James Earl Jones was to him, with the exception of he knows a little bit more because of what he's done.
And I hear that they are doing that.
They are doing that.
Something with the son.
It's with his kid.
Okay.
So I'm fine with, I hope Eddie won't tarnish his legacy. Eddie won't do anything that, he's done those movies. We all be like, why did he do this? And you like Eddie Murphy's bank account, and all the kids said why he did this. Yeah. So all of Eddie Murphy's, because he has Eddie Murphy has a starting offensive line, just the offense period, not even just the line. But you watch all those, but when you see a legacy film like that, for him to be attached to it speaks volumes.
Yeah,
that means the idea and the script had to be so solid for him to say he would do it, because you know so many people have probably come and pitched it to him over the years.
Oh, I'm sure. And same with Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Exactly. So for him to finally say yes, there has to be something he trusts and believes in.
Good. I want to believe that. I'm hoping, because that first movie is one of the it's one of my favorite of the Eddie Murphy movies. Beverly Hills Cop is probably my favorite.
Okay.
Then Coming to America.
Yes.
Let me think about this. It's in it. Beverly Hills Cop 2. I love.
I love Beverly Hills Cop 2.
It's the Alphabet Murders. Tony Scott.
Brigitte Nielsen.
Brigitte Nielsen. I mean, come on. Yeah. What else are the best? 48 Hours. What are some other good ones?
Again, Trading Places is always
Trading Places.
I love Trading Places. It's something natural and raw about that film.
Yeah.
And the story is so beautifully done, to the point where that story in the movie actually affected, shall I say, the stock market to this day.
Yeah, I know, man.
Do you understand how legendary a film has to be, a comedy, that it affects the actual stock market?
Yep.
And so I watched that. I grew up on all of Spike Lee's movies.
Oh, of course.
Every single one of them. So, and I tell everybody that to imagine how I felt, not only when I first had the audition for Chirac.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
To sit in the room with him was like, oh my Lord Jesus, that is him. Well, let me act cool because I know my lines. Ain't no point. It's either one thing's going to happen or the other.
Yeah.
Then to book it and to work with a man I've watched all my life, to have him give me direction, working alongside the greatest action hero to me at the time in Wesley Snipes.
Oh, yeah.
So all these movies influenced my life so many ways around.
Was that it? Was that your like dream come true right then and there?
I don't even know if it was a dream come true. I still think I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
Because that opened the door to allow me to come here to do so many things. It's surreal. I tell everybody this day, that is still the most surreal moment for me.
Yeah.
That I have Wesley Snipes' number in my phone. I can email and call Spike Lee when I want to.
Let's call him right now. Let's do it live on air here. I love that. That's fantastic, man.
And so it's those things that it was a dream, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
And I've always believed that like God will give you what you deserve when he feels it's your time, and he felt it was my time to have that.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. So again, films influenced my life all the way through.
I love that you rattle off like, give me your favorite movie all time. You gave me like 5. And another one in there that I Total Recall, man.
The original Total Recall. The level of violence in that movie
is phenomenal.
I
mean, I was just thinking of the end, the great practical effects of somebody's face blowing up.
Oh,
and you think of the not what's his name in Beverly Hills Cop. And then he's the bad guy in Total Recall. He's the bad guy.
Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox,
yep.
Yeah. I just forever in my mind.
From him to go from Total Recall and RoboCop, things like that. And that was all a part Paul Verhoeven films where they were extra violent.
Oh, yeah.
But they were great. It wasn't just violent for the sake of being violent, but it was a good story.
It was a good story, but I think the hyper violence is definitely something
It enhanced it.
It enhanced it. And I mean, they're definitely doing a comment on the fact that, this is crazy. This is a crazy world. We're going to remind you that you're in a movie by being so hyper violent, but it also is a comment on this is true. This is happening. I mean, RoboCop, if we're talking Detroit, I mean, this is like the future. And it's like, no, this is
Detroit.
This is Detroit. My God, man, I love that. What are some of the best movies that you saw this past year? I mean, how did you feel about the nominations for the Academy Awards?
So it's no secret, I was extremely happy about Black Panther for several reasons.
Yeah.
I grew up on this comic character.
Yeah.
It was one of the characters I had to read and got introduced to while I couldn't go outside. I watched the legacy of T'Challa to where he evolved. And of course, to see the film, I cried.
Yeah, man.
When I was in the press screening, I cried.
I love the movie,
because I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Infinity War, I was a fan of the Infinity Gauntlet series. To believe they actually pulled off the snap, which everybody was like, they're not going to do. And if they do, it's going to be a Sopranos thing.
Oh,
nope. The Hate You Give is beautiful.
I'm dying to see that movie.
The Hate You Give is beautiful. A Star Is Born, I had to give it for what it was. It was like, I've seen this movie so many different times.
Yeah. I loved it. It hit me in a way I didn't know why or how.
Game night is hilarious.
Game night is awesome.
Game night is awesome.
That was a shocker to me.
I was like, I didn't think it was going to be that funny.
Yeah.
You know, so I watched so many. I couldn't tell you like all my best. I watched Into the Spider-Verse, of course.
Yeah, that's one of my top 5 probably.
I watched so many different movies. On top of with my podcast, I would tell everybody, I go see every single Marvel or DC comic book movie that comes out on top of watching every single Marvel and DC TV show every week.
Yeah, man.
And still make time for it. So much.
Yeah, man. So is Black Panther your favorite comic character, or is it like you have another one?
He's my favorite one of my favorite characters. My favorite character above all is Carnage. I don't know why. Call it the villain in me.
Yeah.
Call it the super. Because Carnage is that psychopath that knows who he is and accepts who he is.
Right.
Doesn't make any excuses for it. Even though he kills everybody, he like, well, it's Tuesday. What you feel like doing?
I feel like eating somebody's head. What about you?
What about you?
Yeah.
You know, because when I read the Maximum Carnage series, when I read how he was so common and bonded with the symbiote, how Venom says we, Eddie Brock says we. Venom's like, I do all this. I'm good. I live my life. Like, it's just me and we're one. This is us.
Yeah.
And so I've always bonded with that. I bonded with Deathstroke. I've always loved Deathstroke the Terminator.
Yeah.
You know, so those characters have always been great for me.
I love it, man. And I love seeing you turn some of these things into, you're a fantastic artist.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to end on this because you mentioned it kind of towards the beginning, how it's an outlet for you.
Yes.
Do you find it like very relaxing and very...
Absolutely. Very therapeutic.
Yeah, therapeutic, cathartic, I bet. And
if I'm ever having those moments, I'll just like, you know what, I'll draw something. So I'll look at a picture real quick and I'll be like, all right, let me do this, but I can enhance it and make it pop off a page or pop off a canvas.
Yeah.
Whatever I want to do, and I just do it. And it's like, I love blending colors and bringing it to life in my own variation.
The way you do it, man, I am so jealous of that gift because if I were to, hey, Reilly, draw to save your life. Yeah, I'm dead. This stick figure here, he has cancer. It's like
the stick
figure. I mean, because they're so, I've never been able to draw. So it's been one of my things. Whenever I see somebody that can draw, my sister can do it. My sister's a great artist. My mom is a great artist. It was my dad that was a writer. And I'm like, oh, I know where that came from then. I know where my sister, but I remember being in the old studio over at Collider when you were doing an appearance, and I walked by and I'm like, hold on, what's going on with Spider-Man here? You drew that? Holy shit, dude. Well, I hope that people see that. What are you doing with your art? And I know you mentioned selling
a lot of times if I just want to give away get it out. Because I'm like, again, the struggle makes you have to try to get income any way you can. Yeah. So I do that. But a lot of times I do them and they just sit up. I have a bunch of pictures I've done that they're sitting up. Everybody like, what are you doing with them? I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a Spider-Man painting I did, just sits up. I don't know. A Venom painting. It's just sitting there. So I have them a lot of times. They, for lack of better words, take up space, but it's always like, okay, I can do these things.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome art. It's awesome.
Thank you so much.
You have a talent not only for that, but for stand-up, the Urban Gladiator, for Schmodown. Jay Washington, thank you for coming in, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
This is absolutely, I loved this conversation.
I'm an honor. Thank you for allowing me to be open and just have fun.
Yeah, well, that's what I want. I don't want to talk about, sometimes I want to talk about movies. Sometimes I want to talk about assholes on Twitter. Sometimes I want to talk about
Let me tell you,
life.
I'm the Dikembe Mutombo of Twitter. If you talk stupid, you will catch this blog like, no.
I love it when you take some motherfuckers out on Twitter because I could use you in my corner sometimes. I just ignore them now. It's just nonsense.
Well, I guess it's like somebody will catch me on that I got free time moment.
Yeah.
And if you catch me on that I got free time moment, that's when it's like, all right, let's see how far we're going to take this till I decide you either done or, you want to give up.
Oh, most cases you shine a light on them, they're going to scurry like cockroaches.
Yeah, like, so since you want to say this, go ahead further elaborate. And if you elaborate, let me show you why your discussion is rooted in bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, God. I can't. I mean, they always think they know more than we do. And you might. I don't know a lot of shit.
You might.
But I know when you're being an asshole or not.
Yeah, I know when the way you come and approach something, if you didn't approach it from an intellectual or a factual-based response in the beginning, I know you're on bullshit. So whatever you say after that, I don't have to take serious.
Exactly.
So.
Well, with that being said, where can they find you so that they can maybe try and come out to you?
You can try it if you want to.
Yep, good luck.
But no, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington. It's MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington.
Yeah, you should.
And also my YouTube channel, youtube.com/JAY Washington 80. And if I made my podcast, the Mad Titan Podcast, on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, like I said before, I get you caught up on everything happening in both the Marvel and DC live action and cinematic universes. I watch 9 to 10 TV shows a week,
My God,
whatever movies, and I get all the news just for you people.
Everything is just fine. Well, thank you. Good. Please check it out. Mr. J. Washington coming on episode 32 of the Reilly Roundtable. That'll do it. I can't believe 32 episodes in. Thank you so much. And especially to my executive producers of the Reilly Roundtable. Thanks to my Patreon account, Courtney Rose, Dylan Steiner, Kyle Brandt, Zach Anderson, Dave Ham, Timur Buta, Christian Hestus, Kyle Harlow, and Mike Frazier. If you want to get involved in my Patreon account, patreon.com/Reilly Roundtable. Thank you, everybody, as always, for listening. We are on the One-on-One with Christian Harloff Podcast 1 feed. Drops every Thursday. It's the Reilly Roundtable, episode 32 in the books. Jay Washington, thanks again, my friend.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.